Hey folks, it's the shadow half of Drak and Shadow. Again, here I am by myself, all by myself, all by myself. Why do I always feel the bizarre need to open these with jokes? I don't know. But yes, again, here I am, just by myself. This is another solo movie vlog from the Drak and Shadow channel. Maybe we should just call this Drak featuring Shadow or Shadow or never mind. But yeah, every so often we'll do these solo to solo vlogs. If you're new to the channel, of course, which we know we've gotten a few newbies over the few months, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for subscribing. Remember, we're still working very hard on our 100 push. Well, we made it to 100, so now we're just running the polls to see what you guys want to see out of us in celebration of that. And again, once again, we do these movie vlogs, and usually they're with Drak. It's usually together, and it's usually a movie we both want to see. I wanted to see this. I don't know if Drak particularly wanted to or didn't. I didn't really approach him with it. You can kind of say it's a bit spontaneous. I was interested in it for quite a while, but I saw I, Tonya, the movie about Tonya Harding, and the fallout after what happened with Nancy Kerrigan when her husband had Nancy Kerrigan's kneecap broken. Scandalous, right? So again, if you're also new here, once more, that these are going to be generally spoiler heavy. Granted, this is a true story movie. There's really not much to spoil here. You can go look it up. You probably already heard about it. Either you've heard about it from critics, because a lot of critics I know were putting it on their top lists for last year. Who knows, it might end up on my top list for the end of this year, because I'm just seeing it now. And you've probably even heard the story yourself, you know, whether you saw it in the documentary somewhere, whether you probably even heard it on Game Grumps, because I can't remember which series it is, but I do remember Danny on Game Grumps actually talking about this story. This is well before the movie. This was probably a year or two ago before this movie actually happened. But what do you know? Game Grumps can be educational, right? In fact, I think that's where I heard it, because I had no idea that Tonya Harding was a disgraced figure skater, if you can call her disgraced, because it totally wasn't her idea. In fairness, it was all her husband, but you've probably seen Tonya Harding if you've ever watched World's Dumbest anything, Criminals, Partiers, whatnot. She's one of the talking heads on that show. So you've probably seen Tonya Harding around, but I had no idea she was a figure skater ever until I heard about the story, what happened with her husband and a fellow skater who got whacked in the knees. It's even been spoofed in The Simpsons. Not too much with ice skating, although nowadays they would be so on the nose with that. But anyway, I should get on topic here and talk about the movie. So, I mean, this movie isn't solely focused on that. It's really more of a biography of Tonya Harding's rise to fame as an ice skater. We follow her from early childhood. We follow her into her young adult years, that's kind of where she peaked, was her young adult years at 23, but we see her rise from just kind of white trash, and this is her own words, and I'm not trying to cast judgment here. She's a kind of a white trashy family from Portland, Oregon, and we see how she becomes a figure skater, but because she's kind of low class, blue collar type, you know, she's not really beloved and accepted at first in the figure skating community. Sounds like the typical underdog sports story, right? This is no underdog sports story, trust me. Makes me wonder what Yuri on Ice would have been like if it'd been like this. And my God, Tonya really had a lot of shit in her life. I mean, her mother was awful. Her ex-husband was terrible to her. Everybody's like terrible to her. It's just figure skating was the one thing she seemed to be really good at, and she had to put up with a lot of shit in her life. So now we get into what we like, what we don't like, and well, here's what I like. I really like the way this movie's structured. I mean, it does follow a lot of the traditional beats of a lot of biography films. You start at some point in the future, so it's in, I think how you say it is in medias res. I'm probably saying that complete, or raw or something, I don't know. It's like Latin, but it's basically the how we got here story. And this movie's set up instantly with sort of like this sort of documentary reenactment. I don't know where this comes from. I'm more than pretty sure that the footage is real. Well, the footage isn't real because it's reenacted by the screen actors who are playing these characters, like Margot Robbie. But I'm sure that there was like a documentary made at like 1998. So, because it starts with that, and they kind of, each one of them kind of recounts things how they essentially recall it. So it's kind of very much a point of view kind of, so you have to take sort of that as you will. Plus the fact true story movies always like to, bend the facts to make a good dramatic narrative. So a lot of it is, of course, Nancy's point of view, but we also get interviews from her mother, from her ex-husband. We get interviews from a guy who worked for Hard Copy. It's kind of random, to be honest, but it makes sense given this was a huge media scandal at the time in the early 90s. I was a little too young to really remember this, by the way, even though I was around for it, but I was a little too young to really remember any of it. So I really like the way the movie is structured, the way we keep kind of jumping back and forth with all these different interviews. You see everybody's point of view, how the story kind of plays out from everybody. It's also kind of funny in a dark way. It's kind of a dark comedy in that sense, because there's a lot of like dark humor to it. And you'll get chuckles out of it. You really probably will. It actually is funny. It's not funny and like this is really uncomfortable. Like they're trying too hard. I mean, it legitimately comes across as there's some decently good dark humor here, because it kind of is. I mean, the whole story itself is kind of a dark comedy. Anyway, I think the cast is really good. I don't really know any of them besides Margot Robbie, who I'll admit I only really know from Suicide Squad. I know everybody hates that movie. I thought it was alright. But she was really good as Tonya Harding. I mean, like I said, I only have ever seen Tonya Harding in like World's Dumbest. That's right, when she's always being interviewed there. And I can tell she's kind of, but everybody there is kind of overacting on those kinds of shows. I mean, it's a talking head show, but they're all like some kind of B-list, D-list celebrity who always has to make some weird quip, and it's a little weird. Margot Robbie seems to really understand who Tonya Harding is, and as I kind of said, the movie's not shy, and neither is Tonya, to be honest. I mean, if you've seen interviews with her, she's very candid like that. That she is very much from that kind of lower white trash, blue collar kind of family. That's kind of her life. That's always been her life. And that's kind of why she struggled a little bit to really get acceptance in figure skating, because figure skating is kind of this pristine and proper sport, and the sport of kings. I'm being a little silly here, but that is really how the movie puts it out here, is that she's kind of getting shafted because she's not a proper lady. Right, but Tonya doesn't care. She is who she is. I mean, she'll put on a bit of an act later for the judges, so to speak. And she keeps kind of getting back and on and off again with her husband. Sad truth in television here. Happens in a lot of instances of spousal abuse. But that's neither here nor there. So ultimately, it's a very solidly acted film, very well written film, very well made and directed, photographed, because there's a lot of ice skating, of course, so you get a lot of pretty good skating shots. Now, I guess we can get into what I didn't like. I didn't have too many problems with the movie. I suppose one thing that kind of kept bringing me out of the movie, so to speak, would be when the characters would talk to the camera. I don't mean like during the, mock interview segments that they're recreating. I just mean like, okay, we're in a scene in the past, and all of a sudden, it's like the character will turn to the camera and speak to it like this, like I'm turning my head right now. Right? I don't mean, and again, I'm talking like right in the scene, not like they cut back to the interview at that present time. I mean like right in the scene itself. And it's a little jarring. I get the point that they're going with, because again, this is like they're recounting their stories, so you have the typical very narration. Maybe I can give it points on the fact it is a little different from how a lot of movies like this are structured when they have these kinds of interviews, or when they have like a narration recounting events of the story. So I guess credit is still due because it is a kind of unusual and creative decision. I don't know. It just kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. But really, I gotta say that's probably the most of my problems with the movie. I really enjoyed it. These are the kind of movies I do like in general. I do like kind of biography films. I like dramatic films about people who've done terrible shit to each other. So, depends. I mean, you gotta make the character at least interesting. I don't necessarily like characters who like to fuck each other over. You know, on my channel, you've probably seen me rail against Scum's Wish because that's all that show is. But it's sort of like, this is the kind of movie where like it toes the line between having a character you want to despise but you can't because you really feel for them, and you do feel for Tonya, you really do, because you know she is kind of being like pish-poshed upon by the figure skating elite, so to right, and the fact that she has dealt with a very shitty life leading up to everything. And it certainly does, I think, go out of its way to really show that she didn't have much to do with it. And she didn't orchestrate the attack or anything. I mean, I think, if I recall, the movie does portray it that she and her husband were trying to conspire to do something, maybe more like intimidate Nancy Kerrigan rather than actually, beat her up. So... And you do feel for her. You do feel like she got the raw end of the deal here when she's banned for life from figure skating after I guess she pled guilty. I don't know the case very well. I'd have to do a little research, but that's kind of her sentence, and she obviously has to pay a lot of money, pay a lot of fines, and she has to. And but she is banned from figure skating forever. You really do. You feel for her at that moment. I'm like, damn, that's harsh, because it's not like she took the crowbar herself. It was a baton in the movie. I don't know if that's the case, but it's not like she did it herself, and it's not like she literally actually conspired to break Nancy Kerrigan's kneecap. So, of course, Margot Robbie is up for the Oscar for this movie. A little surprising, I must say. Do I think she'll win? Probably not. I think the movie is kind of its own self-fulfilling prophecy, essentially, only in regards to the Academy rather than figure skating. It's not the kind of character the Academy likes to really celebrate and cherish and give the Oscar to. I think Margot Robbie does a hell of a job, and I think her nomination is certainly well earned. I'm not totally convinced, though, that she can win. I think the Oscar might go to the actress, the lady in The Shape of Water. Not seen the movie. I'm interested in it, though. Maybe I should go see that one next. Just because she had to do a lot of sign language and body language. And you want a guaranteed Oscar? Play a mentally challenged person, a disabled person, or a person who can sing. Maybe all three. Then you'll definitely get that Oscar Gold. Or make a movie about the Holocaust. Also Oscar Gold. Oh yeah, we also like to kind of give our general recommendation. Should you go see it in a theater? Should you rent it? How much you should pay? I'm generally the one who likes to always fall on the conservative side of things. If you are still a loyal theater goer, sure, go see it. Go see a matinee. It'll be worth your time and your money, especially if you're interested in movies like this, like I am. But if it's more of a passing curiosity to you, you might be okay with waiting for a Netflix release. To be honest, even I couldn't remember if this was a Netflix movie or an actual theatrical film. It's a theatrical film, kind of surprising, but again, it's really going to fall down to what your preference is. I saw it in the theater. It was fine. But it's not going to be worth breaking the bank for you. But I always fall on the conservative side of things for most movies. I always say matinee at the most. Alright, that's going to do it, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this vlog. Can we call this the first official Drak and Shadow vlog of 2018? Well, probably not, because it's a solo vlog by me. So the first solo Drak and Shadow movie review of 2018. Join us next time. We're going to be, I think, going into Black Panther, because I think that's February.